Hi, it's Kavita Shahel of Compassionism Limited from the page on Facebook Compassionism and the group Compassionism in Action, which I have just set up, so it's not quite active just yet, but please feel free to join if you would like and like the page Compassionism. So today I'm going to be discussing boundaries and why have I decided to do that? So first of all, it's understanding why it's important to set boundaries. Secondly, it's about how do we have happier, less stressful lives. And I would love for you guys to join a like-minded community of leaders and parents and young professionals that are just trying to have more compassion in their lives in so many different areas. The last video was on resilience, today it's on boundaries. And it's also, how do you guys find solutions for some of the problems that you're having in your life? And how do you stop being taken advantage of, right? And how do you reduce your stress and build your self-esteem? So this is one of those videos that hopefully will help you do that so that you can, have more peace of mind, have more fun in your life, and have more respect and more freedom from some of life's burdens. Now, I will start with talking about unsetting boundaries, or perhaps even having some flexibility in your boundaries, okay? So there are some boundaries that you may have set around perhaps time or certain rules. And in certain situations, those boundaries need to have some kind of flexibility. Now, whether there is a family tragedy or some kind of external circumstance that doesn't allow for perhaps those things to be met, then there are certain times when there needs to be some kind of flexibility around your boundaries. And we need to be aware of what are our hard boundaries that we're absolutely not willing to compromise on, and what are our boundaries that we're happy to have some flexibility on. And I'm starting with some examples because I think they're really helpful. So for me, a hard boundary is around respect. And I was in a situation some time ago where someone had been quite abusive in their language to me. And bless my husband, he stood up for me. He didn't need to, but I was in this situation and I said, I will not tolerate being spoken to like that, so I will leave because I will not stay. Now, there were other people there that said, no, come on, just stay, don't, like, they're sorry, it's fine. And I'm like, no, it's not fine, so I am going to leave. I didn't make a fuss about it. I didn't have a fight about it. I just got up and I left. And I waited in the car for my husband till he was ready to leave. And that in my behavior, I communicated what was acceptable and what's not. So here's the thing about boundaries. We communicate in our behavior and our actions with what is okay and what is not. So there's that thing of how do we allow other people to treat us? Okay, people will treat us how we allow them to treat us. Now, if we do not make the decision ourselves how other people treat us, they will decide for you. So keep this in mind. If you do not decide how other people treat you, they will decide for you. Okay, so that's something really important to bear in mind. Now, I've written loads of notes down, so if I do look down, apologies, it's just because I don't want to forget some important things that I may want to mention to you today. So, people pleasing, okay, so let's talk about setting boundaries. I'm going to focus most of the attention of today's topic on boundary setting and also the consequences of not setting boundaries. Now, we all know, really, I think, to some level, what that is, and especially people pleasers. Now, as an Asian woman, I think culturally, I'm from Malaysia. I am Punjabi by heritage. And yes, I've lived in the UK for the majority of my life, but there is a lot of cultural influence in how I live my life. And as a woman, and I think most Asian women, especially those who have been raised in Asia, and I talk about Asia as a whole, not just, the Indian subcontinent or India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. I'm talking about the whole of Asia. And this is a generalization, so it's not necessarily every family or every woman. And I do know some exceptions to that. But generally, Asian women have this thing of we will sacrifice, and here's the word, sacrifice. And we are bound to obligation and duty and expectation in how we behave and how we constantly want to be people pleasers. But that people pleasing, and there are times where taking responsibility and obligation is an act of love. Okay, so I was a carer to my mum at the end of her life and also to my dad at the end of his life. And that was a responsibility and a duty, but also I did that out of love. But there are times where we do things not out of love, we do them purely because we are told to do them or there's an expectation around it. And this element of people pleasing, so it's okay to want to please people, okay? So here's the thing I want to put out there. It is okay to want people to be pleased, and it is okay to want people to be happy. But if you are doing it at the cost of your mental health and at the cost of your physical health, then there's a problem. Then something needs to give, okay? And we need to be able to set up these boundaries to protect ourselves, because we cannot pour from an empty cup. If you are a people pleaser, just know this. You cannot continue to please anybody if your cup is all empty. There's nothing left to give. And if you are constantly having your boundaries violated, then you don't have any space for filling that cup in order to give more. So really it is around being aware of how you're feeling and being aware of where in your body things, I'm playing with my daughter's little dinosaur. And being aware of what you say yes to and what you say no to and what reactions your body gives you to saying those yeses and nos, right? So if I say yes to something that actually I don't really want to say yes to, there will be a feeling in my body, in my gut somewhere that goes, I don't really want to do it. There might be dread or fear or, whatever it is. And sometimes we let our boundaries down because we're too afraid of saying no. Or, even if it feels really uncomfortable, we'll still do it. And it is acknowledging that feeling. It's acknowledging there's something happening in me and there is a feeling or a reaction to something and I shouldn't be doing it because there's a communication. Our bodies will communicate to us. We just need to learn to listen to it. And there's times where we say yes to something or no to something and we actually feel real joy and we feel really kind of at peace to kind of go, I feel okay with that. And it's acknowledged, and it's kind of not acknowledged, but it kind of being aware of what is it that you say yes to, what is it that you say no to, and what are the feelings that come up with those things. And, we all make mistakes. There will be times where you let your boundary down, and there will be times where you communicate in your actions and your behavior, oh, it's okay to treat me like that. Now, here's an example. If you have a new partner or girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever it may be, and they say to you, sweetheart, I'm coming home tonight I should be home by about 11. I'm going out with my friends. I'm going to go, pardon me, have a good time. I'm going to come back. I'll be home by about, say, 11ish, okay? And you're like, okay, cool, whatever. And they don't rock up till 6 a.m. Well, first of all, you've probably been awake all night, worrying the hell out of yourself, thinking that they're beaten in a ditch somewhere or whatever your worry may be, or insecurity for that matter. And they come back at 6 o'clock and they're wasted, like they're really drunk, they've had too much to drink, and you're just like, excuse me, you've called into bed and you think this is okay at 6 o'clock in the morning. But there's an element of that I would say, wait till they're sober first before you breach, this conversation. But that is not okay. So if I then communicate, actually, you didn't set my expectations, or you communicate whatever, that you didn't, set my expectations, you've rocked up at 6 a.m, it is not okay, I will not accept that behavior. Actually, what you're communicating is, it's okay for them to do that again and again and again. Okay? Surely there is a way of communicating with me and setting my expectations, or at least giving me the heads up that you're going to be home at 6 a.m. because you worry otherwise. So that is a very lame example, but it's an example of people will behave in a way that I allow them to. So if I give in and I say, I've broached the subject. If you've come home at 6 o'clock in the morning, are you kidding me? Like, WTF? And they've come in and then got annoyed at me that I'm angry. And I go, oh, okay, never mind. It's okay. Well, what have I said in my behavior? In my behavior, I've told them it's okay to continue to behave that way, when in actual fact, it's not. So, well, for me anyway. And we need to be able to build some kind of tolerance to difficult emotions. Because saying no, nobody likes to hear no, right? Nobody wants to hear it. And it can bring up some emotions for other people that might come out, and you need to be able, especially with younger children. I mean, I have a 3-year-old, and oh my God, anyone who has a child will understand this. They push boundaries every given second of the day. And it is being able to stick by those and give some consequences for certain things, right? There are things that I will have flexibility over. And she knows, I might say no, but I'm like, actually. But there needs to be actions, right? So you need to have some kind of action plan. And what are the boundaries? There may be boundaries around money, boundaries around physical contact, boundaries around your possessions, your material goods, boundaries around your belief system, your values, emotional boundaries that you can set. I think people rejecting your emotions or dismissing them even. And also this boundary around energy, right? Energy should be exchanged. It's certainly not something that you just continually give away, because then there's nothing, you need to contain that. And it is around, I will revisit that thing I said to begin with. If you do not make the decision of how somebody else treats you, they will decide for you. And there needs to be some kind of structure or rule or consequence, and people to understand where they stand with certain things. Because it is for you to decide. It is for you to decide how you are treated. And, if you allow yourself to be ignored or disrespected or, taken advantage of or treated like a doormat, then people will continue to do that. And please, I am not talking about violence like rape or sexual abuse or, muggings or kind of, whether somebody breaks into your house. Those are not things I'm discussing here. So please, we're talking about the day-to-day stuff within a family or in an environment. And it's what is, how do we ease the pressure on ourselves, right? How do we ease the pressure on ourselves in our life and actually create something that is generative and people understand, and there is a mutual respect in whatever relationship it may be, whether that's at work or whether it's in your personal life or with your children. I mean, people will do what they can get away with. And yeah, that's just our nature. We do what we can get away with. If we can get away with behaving poorly with somebody, then that's what we will continue to do, because we know that they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. So you continue to do that. Start with the small stuff. So when we're talking about boundary setting, please it's always usually helpful to start with the small stuff, because it can be really challenging. If you have never set a boundary before, it can be so hard to set a boundary, because there's always this kind of clash. And with a system, the other people involved in setting the boundary may kind of, may not necessarily react particularly well. But be prepared for that, and be prepared to communicate with the people that are involved in these particular boundaries. And just know you can't pour from an empty cup. And remember, people will treat you the way you allow them to treat you. So boundaries are really important. And there may be some times where you do need to take a boundary down because it's no longer appropriate or relevant. Thank you for listening. Do like our page, Compassionism. I would love to hear from you. If you've got any questions, please do feel free to ask. I hope this was helpful.